Welcome to Love and Lightning. First comes love, and then comes lightning. I'm your host, Nicole Pelham. Welcome to a soul-charged journey where heart meets power and is transformed in strikes of lightning. All waters lead to the same place, love, and in an ever-expanding universe, stretching and unfolding, sending out waves of love and light, you are not a small part. You are an outsized part of the universe's plan. Here on Love and Lightning, we explore the intersection of spirituality, science, politics, religion, and the one thing we're all searching for, love and acceptance. The kind that reminds us that the universe made us perfectly and that you are in this moment exactly where you're meant to be. Get ready to be inspired with hope for the future, strengthen your path, and bolts of lightning to awaken your soul. Welcome to Love and Lightning. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Love and Lightning. I'm Nicole, your host on Transformation Talk Radio. Welcome to my first show. I'm so excited. Stay with me for the whole hour so that you can make sure to get your code so that you can win one of 3 abundance crystals I've been charging just for you. Disclaimer, you must believe in magic in order to see it. That's something you're going to hear me say a lot. Today's topic is pretty light, but it's something that's really, really important. But I would be remiss if I didn't start my first show with all the things going on, if I didn't just take a few moments to just talk to you guys and address what's going on kind of in the world. And just remind you of our mission as we're here in the 3D is to anchor in what we want to see in the world. To make sure that we don't get caught too much in the events, we make sure that we know what's going on, because that is part of your thing. If you weren't here in the 3D, you wouldn't need to know all the things that are going on. But to make sure that you remember that the qubits, the God particles, the spirits, they're all listening to you, and they're all listening to say what you think is going to happen. So remember that this is like a video game projection. And so whenever you're at some event, whether you're a family event or you're at a protest or a boycott or just, some sort of situation, to anchor in what you want to be there. And sometimes that doesn't happen in the moment and you have to work on that afterwards. But especially in this time, to remember that there are some people who are really wanting to anchor in some very destructive ends. I was raised in a cult, which I'll talk about a lot. And they're in this very revelation like that everybody needs to be destroyed who does not believe in their form of worship. And so there's people who are really manifesting that. And so to remember that we want to manifest a smooth, calm end where people awaken and where the earth gets to move into its next phase along with humanity that awakens, because humanity can do so much good for the earth. And honestly, we owe the earth a lot of good. So with that, can we go ahead and get our first video played?
Here's some good news in April that you might have missed. 5 lions that were rescued from Ukraine are now safe in England, touching grass for the first time at a new sanctuary. 3 teenagers in India have created salt-powered fridges that work without electricity, helping rural hospitals store critical supplies safely. In France, Parisians voted to pedestrianise and green 500 more streets across the city over the next 3 years. A huge 92.5% of all new power capacity added worldwide came from renewable sources in 2024. Washington is set to ban elephants, bears, wildcats and more from being forced to perform in circuses, ending the use of wild animals in travelling shows. A Louisiana jury ordered Chevron to pay $745 million to restore wetlands in Louisiana after decades of environmental damage. And an African giant pouched rat called Carolina retired last month after helping stop nearly 400,000 tuberculosis cases by sniffing out infection. Tap like to keep the good news on your feed and share this with a friend who needs to hear some good news.
So that is Sam Bentley, Bentley. I find him on TikTok. We can find him on Instagram and Facebook, and probably lots of other places. He's just one of those people that I encourage you to make sure you follow and like. He gives really great news around the world, and just something that really helps to uplift you, because I remind people all the time the news is made to warn us about like unusual things. That's why it scares us. So remember to make sure you're getting good news in there too, because that's not really that's not the news's job. That's why they have those little puff pieces. Hey, Nat, did you hear any good news this week? Let me introduce Nat. Nat is my producer. I'm so excited. He's my first producer. So Nat, did you hear any good news this week?
First off, I just wanted to say I'm so happy to be here. Excited to be on this journey with you, Nicole. For good news, my favorite news is the news that just like puts a smile on my face. I've been following. I don't know if you're aware of the story that's been happening with that was happening in Nashville with the escaped zebra, who had
Oh yeah.
escaped a zoo in Tennessee, and there's been videos all over the internet of the zebra just running around in the open, and
Causing
they
chaos.
did catch the zebra in the end and had to be airlifted back to its home. But every clip of the zebra is just hilarious, and I love it.
Oh, so if you haven't heard about that, that was a really fun story. I did heard about it when it happened, and I didn't realize it was still on the loose until I saw that it was caught. And I went, wow, that zebra's just been running around. That was an
Exactly.
adorable story. That was
Yep.
perfect. That was perfect.
Yep.
Um, Oh, that was perfect. Thanks so much. So I highly recommend watching Helpers. I highly recommend. We'll talk about this a little bit later on in the show about just making sure you train your social media, train your all of your entertainment so that it's giving you good news. I mean, you don't have to always watch good news. I enjoy a good horror movie every once in a while, but just making sure you notice how you're feeling with that. With that said, we're gonna get. Oh wait, I forgot my good news. So one, I really love that refrigerator. With everybody talking about AI, I thought that was super interesting because we know that AI is gonna do a lot of things, but we have to think of the ideas for AI to make it. Like it could be like, hey, let's make this in the future, but you have to have the idea to make it. So they had, hey, we need to fix this problem that we're having. So there'll be so many ways for AI to just make our lives better. At least that's my personal flip on it, and that's what I'm manifesting. I also heard that our neighbor Oregon, they approved wildlife bridges. I love wildlife bridges. Animals almost instantly know where to go with those. Washington State, come on, Washington State. But Oregon, they went ahead and approved that, so they're going to start putting wildlife bridges in, which will just save so many lives, both human lives, animal lives, and man, that car insurance is getting crazy, guys. So if you're worried about just the money, this also helps with that. But our main story and main topic for today was about they talked about that right at the end, Carolina, and that's our main topic is how humans how we're dealing with rats. They're wonderful pets for some people, and I have family members who will scream and jump on tables. They are absolutely, positively not interested in having rats. So I completely understand. But rats are an important part of the food web, and they are something that we need to have in our world. So there are some other animals like mosquitoes, which I always thought we needed, and I found out from mosquito scientists that we absolutely do not. But rats are, and rodents are a keystone. They're really important to feed other animals. So with that in mind, we're going to just go over just the ways that we kind of deal with them. I personally had a lot of issues with them, and I'm going to definitely not be judging anybody because I just had these boxes, rat boxes, that were poisoning rats at my house, and I had rat boxes at my business. And so I just could not figure out a way to get rid of them. I'm feeding my birds here. I have my cats indoors, and so for the first time ever, I had rats, and oh man, I thought I could just block them. First I saw them and thought they were fine. Oh, it's cute, it's fine. And then I thought I could block them when I realized they were going in my open basement. Ding, 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 ding. And the next day they chewed a hole this big through my wall. And so I was like, oh, this is why people kill rats. Like, you guys can't do this. And then they chewed a wire on my light fixtures that go across my deck. And not in the cute, secretive Nim way where they're like going to take them and make some sort of secret club out. They just chewed them and left them. I fixed it. It still worked. They chewed it again. I was like, oh man. So I called an exterminator out, and he promised me that these boxes only kill rats. And I asked a couple questions, but I tend to believe people if they tell me, yeah, this is, what it does. And I asked about squirrels. He said, nope, squirrels can't get in here. We have weasels here. No, weasels can't get in there. This just will kill the rats. So I put four of those boxes around. I was going on vacation too, so I was like, man, you cannot leave these rats. Who knows what they would have done if I hadn't been in the house for a week? So I went ahead and had an exterminator come out. He put these boxes around. I had them for 3 or 4 months. And then, man, I found a dead rat. We kept smelling it as I was gardening, and it just looked like it died in the most horrible and painful way. And I mean, that's why I avoided glue traps. That's honestly why I avoided snap traps because I felt like that's a really horrible way to kill a creature. So, I was already trying to avoid hurting the creature. And I was also trying to avoid hurting all the rest of nature. I kept my cats indoors so that they wouldn't hurt nature. So just the whole thing just started falling apart. So I went ahead and I made the mistake to get the rat boxes. At the same time, the same problem was happening at one of my businesses. People wonder why rats increase, and it's usually because of messing with their environment. So across the street, we had houses that had been there forever, and then they tore all those houses up, and they put in a big apartment complex where they tore up all the rat houses. So the rats had to move out, and so they're just trying to find a new place to live. And for the first time, we had rats there, and we had an owl. And so I thought I was helping. I'll kill some of the rats, and the owl will kill the rest. And man, was I wrong. So when I come back, we will talk about that in just a few minutes in my personal experience, and then how we can help to live more in harmony with our rodents. This is Love and Lightning and Nicole Pelham, and we'll be right back. We're back on Love and Lightning, and I'm Nicole. You can watch Love and Lightning at YouTube at Love A Lightning, or you can find out more about my show at www.loveandlightning.com. Hey, Nat, can you play that YouTube video we have for the audience?
An Arctic snowy owl is recuperating tonight after coming across poison meant for rats and mice. It's the second feathered victim of rat poison to have arrived at Willowbrook Wildlife Center so far this year. WTTW News reporter Patty Wetley joins us now with more details. So, Patty, volunteers with the Chicago Bird Collision Monitors found a snowy owl that was grounded with bloody legs and feet earlier this week. What happened and what kind of treatment is the owl getting now?
Yeah, so they were able to take it to Willowbrook Wildlife Center in DuPage County, which is, a great operation there. And they found that the bird had a small cut on one of its feet that was just bleeding profusely. And they kind of recognized the symptoms and were able to ascertain after running some tests that the bird's blood wasn't clotting and that its red blood cell count was really low, which is a classic case of the bird having fallen victim to a specific kind of rodenticide, which causes anticoagulation, and the bird was just going to bleed and bleed and bleed.
Yeah, so any minor little cut could not be
exactly.
clotted. This is the second time in recent weeks that a bird has been brought to the Wildlife Center for rat poison treatment. What do we know about rat poison and birds in about 35 seconds?
Yeah, well, earlier this year, a bald eagle was brought in, same issue, bleeding profusely. And the problem is these very powerful, potent rodent poisons, the rodents eat them, then the birds prey on the rodents. And these poisons are so powerful that they end up in the bird's system as well. And, we might want to get rid of rats, but we're not trying to get rid of bald eagles. So really need to read bottles of poison and not use things that have anticoagulants in them, just for starters.
Just for starters, yeah. I'm sure there's more. Okay,
yes.
Good to know. Patty Wetley, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brandis.
And you can read Patty's full story on our website. It's all at WTTW.com/news.
Just a little sample of the problems. There's tons of videos like that. I recently went to my beach council, as I was talking about with you guys, my personal experience, and gave that with them. And was expressing to them, and a lot of them mentioned that we had lost a couple cats in the neighborhood that were mousers that had gotten into rat poison. And so they already were kind of aware of the problem, but you notice there that she said anticoagulant, and they're saying to use absolutely no rat poison, and especially not that new rat birth control, guys. That seems like such a bad idea. I can't. There are movies about that. That seems like a bad idea to introduce rat poison into the bottom of the food chain. So they're really asking that everybody just goes back to Snapchats. But so anyway, I had cats. My cat's indoors for the first time, and the rats had chewed a hole through the wall. I find the dead rat, right? And I'm just like, oh, we gotta call this guy back. It looks horrible. It looks like the videos. It's upside down. It's just bloated. It looks bad. And he's like, yeah, most people actually call me back out after they find a dead rat. They actually don't like it. So he knows like that it looks horrible. So he comes back out and gets him. And then about a week or two later, the universe is like, hey, guess what? You have killed a bunch of creatures. And this first video, I'll show you one at the end, with this hawk comes, and the hawks, they get like a neurological condition, which makes them unable to fly. They're kind of twitching out. The owls, they take that rat back to their nest and it kills the entire family. So I'm watching this and I'm just sick because we have weasels, we have hawks, we have owls, we have skunks. I just can't imagine how many creatures I may have killed in that 3 months. And then the kicker is that that poison, it doesn't have a shelf life, so it just stays in the ground for anything else to find it. So people have talked about dogs digging it up, like I mentioned, skunks, anything that would take that burrow up might find that food and eat it. And so I was like, man, I could be killing things for months. I could be killing things for months. And so they're really asking everybody to go back to just basic snap traps. But I just had never had that problem. I had outdoor cats, but when I moved here, because of the eagles, because of also we have a lot of small birds. My cats literally killed a bird off the deck when they're only allowed to be on the deck with me for like 30 minutes or something. So I was like, yeah, you guys can't be outside. So that's why I kept everybody inside. And I'm trying to be like good to the animals. So just one of those times where I realized I need to just do more research. Definitely not rely on other people. I talk about that all the time, that we have the entire history and information of the world in our hands and we are not using it. People are like, oh, I don't know, especially recently, kind of like a chosen ignorance, just not to look things up. And so I was like, oh, you should have just done your due diligence. Like it's completely your fault for not looking these up. People will 100% lie to you. And then there's a great flock of birds flying by. Anyway, squirrel. Anyway, so then yesterday, a couple days ago, I had bees, and I thought they were bees, and so I called out an exterminator for that. I don't want to exterminate them; I just want to move them to another location, whether they were bees or whatever. I like them in my yard, so I was like, hey, I had to call a couple different places, and they were like, yeah, we can just move them to a different spot in your yard. So he comes out and he gets my wasp. He gets stung 3 times. I feel so bad. I give him for each stung. That's how I paid him. But he moves them and he puts them in the roof of the yard. And that was something that I talked about too. Was that we need to make sure that we have our predators in our yards, right? That we keep our bees, we keep our wasps, things like that. Anyway, I'll get to that later. So he proceeds to tell me that his bees, he has a whole bunch of bees, and he had a bunch that died in his front yard because his neighbor didn't want any rodents any gophers or anything digging in his yard. So what he had done is he had poisoned the soil, and he was trying to poison the soil down so that there would be no grubs or creatures for the gophers to eat and for the moles to eat. And so that humans, that's a problem. Like that, and that type of mentality. I was like, oh man, that's the mentality you're going to be talking to. A lot of this show though is preaching to the choir. I talk about that a lot. I'm like, oh no, the choir needs to be preached to. So if you're just like, yes, girl, there's too much poison in the world, I'm literally talking to you too. Just be like, yeah, there's another helper, because I'm just often very shocked. But yeah, this man was just like, I'm just gonna poison all of the yards. So he said all of his bees were dying. And he's supposed to be bringing me some. Oh, shh, that's a secret. Anyway, so he moved the wasps over there, but yeah, he was telling me that all of his bees were dying because his neighbors were. So thinking about that type of thing when we're thinking about poison, that we are affecting not just our area, but the areas around us. So I went and talked to like I said, the beach council here, and they just had a great time. We talked about, how many dangers there were, and everybody was coming over and asking me like different ways to get rid of rats. One woman did have rats that were eating her car, and guys, like I said, once they're kind of in your house and they're eating stuff, you can live trap them, which is wonderful. But live traps, you have to check them pretty much every day. Rats can't stand those very long. And we actually had a problem with that in my business where we live trapped a little family and no one checked on them for a day and they all died because they can't stay in there for a long time. So just keeping that in mind with live tracks, you have to check those pretty regularly. But yeah, she was like, well, what do we do? And I was like, well, you guys can do the live traps, but sometimes things can't be in your house like that, destroying things. Like they do recommend that you kill rats. They just say that you're supposed to kill them with snap traps or those new electrical traps that they have that will zap them. And that's kind of a recommendation I have for people who don't like a lot of gooiness or grossness. Is those electrical traps are supposed to be much cleaner. You're supposed to just be able to dump the rat out without actually touching it, and doing all that like moving of the like thing back and not snapping your own finger and all that good stuff, which probably puts people off on the experience. So anyway, I almost forgot. So the reason why I have rats here is because, like I said, I've kept my animals inside along with my husky Pandora, and she eats all sorts of things and she digs up things. So she's not allowed to roam the yard freely because I have marmots, which are really adorable, and like I said, weasels and all sorts of creatures. So I keep everybody's pretty well corralled in this yard, which just led to rats for the first time. I had no idea, and I'm also on the water, so there's a lot of just a lot of wildlife here. There's just a lot more nature, and I have no neighbors in a couple areas. And I'm feeding the birds, so I'm bringing the rats to me. Whereas most of you are probably not bringing the rats to you like that. Without bird feeders, you're probably not going to have rats like that. And if you just want to avoid rats, one of the things we talked about was just the plants that you can get. So one of the people at the Redondo Council had been like, my mom used to have marigolds everywhere, and I hated those things. But now I know why. And I was like, yeah, we hate them. Rats hate them. So you can go online and find like lavender. They don't like garlic or onions. You can make sure that those are around. But they have a whole list of mints. They don't like a lot of those big thick smells. So you can plant those around your yard just to keep rats out. Which is probably what I'm going to start doing with my yard, because my yard was kind of abandoned for about a decade. So I'm letting it show me what plants were here before I came here. There's a lot of bulbs and stuff like that. So I don't want to mess with those. So I'm watching the yard for a little bit. But I will bring in a bunch of lavender. Oh wait, not lavender. My sister's allergic to that. I'll bring in a bunch of like garlic and onions and mints and things like that kind of will keep away. So those are some ideas that you can do to keep some of the creatures away from your yard. Let's see. I think we have another video here to play. Nat, can you play this this other video for us? It's kind of sad. Yeah. So that is what happens to hawks. Those are bigger birds. Same with eagles, but a lot of the smaller creatures are just going to die. So I'm pretty sure if you can think of like your favorite predator, I'm pretty sure it's on the list of creatures that is getting poisoned by rat poison. So talking to your neighbors, making sure that you're not using it, and just going back to just basic snap traps. Make sure that those are indoors too. You're not. This is something I did have a couple of people about. Is that we're not. Rats get to live outside. She was like, there's rats in the trash can. I was like, well, I mean, it's trash. What do we care if rats eat it? Like humans do have to get used to like allowing creatures to be in the environment with them. So that was something we did discuss. So making sure that your rat traps are indoors. Remember, not using any of that birth control. That is a horrible plan. And really keeping in mind that you're not just hurting the animals, the predators, but then when they bury it, it's going to hurt any of the other animals. So weasels, foxes, skunks. Anything else that digs it up, dogs, will also die from that. So keeping those things in mind, we're going to go ahead and take our next break. I'm Nicole, and you're listening to Love and Lightning. When we come back, we'll explain some different options for pest control, and then we will talk a little bit more about the universe and your place in it. You can find out more at www.loveandlightning.com. We'll be right back. On Love and Lightning, I'm Nicole, and we've been talking about predators over poison, specifically rats, but we're going to talk about other animals as well, and benefits and methods to take care of them. My producer Nat has some images I found for you guys. These are also have some links on the bottom of them to different websites where you can go to find out more information and to double check my information because I am very clear about this, guys. I'm just imparting information that I've learned. There are a few things I'm an expert on: childcare, probably running back, maybe outside linebacker from playing football, being in that cult. But I'm not an expert. I'm just imparting knowledge to you guys and reminding you that as spiritual people, it's our job not just to sit here and go, love and light, but also to go, oh, is that garbage? Pick it up, to also be taking care of our 3D world. So with that, you can see on there that there's some different links on there. And the poison is probably killing one of your favorite animals. I mean, the list literally seems endless when when I look it up, when I talk to people about it, they were like, oh yeah, I was talking to a barn cat woman about it. And she was saying, yeah, they have that problem with barn cats. So barn cats is a company here in Washington. Well, not a company, they're a nonprofit here in Washington, and you can go to them and they have stray cats that they find that are not able to be house cats. So I don't know about that. Personally, I have taken many stray cats that other people were like, this cat can't be tamed, like Boo Boo Kitty. And we tamed them. So, but we got those cats kind of young. But they have cats that are too old to be, or maybe they're just not being just not interested in humans. And so you get them and you keep them like in your garage or someplace like that with food and water, and food and water for about 2-3 weeks. And then when you let them out, they stay in the area because you continue to feed them. And this is true. I've done this with many cats. I had someone argue with me, and she was like, "No, we don't believe in that. We put cats down." And I was like, I will never call this number again. And she was like, no, we don't believe that barn cats work. And I was like, I personally have done that with cats. That's how they work. So they're like, yeah, this is food and we like it here. Especially when there's extra food. So they talked about that with barn cats, that they've lost had some people call and have lost cats to rat poison. So just keeping that in mind, you're definitely going to be killing your neighbors. Cats are wildlife when you're having those rat boxes out. One example that I give of a place that has rat boxes everywhere is New York. New York has rat boxes everywhere, and don't they have the worst rat problem in the world, or one of the worst rat problems in the world? It's just that doesn't work. That's not how you take care of them. They have too many babies, and one of the biggest reasons why that happens is because they don't die right away from the rat poison. So they get the rat poison and then they take that in their cheeks and they go down to their house. They share it with all of their little family, and then they die in about I'm hearing 6 to 10 days, depending on the sources. But that's a long time. One, that's long enough for procreation. That's why that's not working. And two, during that time, they're sick and they're wandering around and they're acting drunk, and the predators are supposed to pick that up. So the predators come along, grab what they're supposed to, take it back home, and then everybody dies. So that's one of the reasons why they're really trying to, it's actually like a personal crusade to just make sure that we just keep those out of Washington State, that they just don't come here. And so I've been leaving flyers everywhere. I used to have an anime convention. And before that, I had just some different things where I've done a lot of door-to-door stuff. And I'm like, dude, if we got people to come from Australia and Japan to our anime convention, I can get the word out in Washington State that these rat boxes are bad and are going to destroy a bunch of our wildlife. And we don't even know what happens if it's seeping into the ground. That's a whole nother thing. What animals it would mess with like that. So, that's why we're talking about it today. One of the ways that I'm going to be taking care of them is I'm going to be putting up owl boxes here now that I've talked to the community and talked to my closest neighbors just to make sure they won't have one. I'm going to go ahead and put owl boxes up. I wanted to put those up last year, but I wanted to get the word out about these rat poisons. I didn't want to put up owl boxes when I would just be calling owls to my yard to get killed with rat poison. So I'm going to put that up this summer. You're supposed to put birdhouses are usually late summer, it says. So I'm going to be putting up a lot of birdhouses in my yard. I have a lot of wildlife. And then hawk hides. I don't really have any idea how to do that, but someone was like, yeah, you can put in hawk hides. They're putting those out around farms. So there's a whole lot of projects going around to farms. It's one of the biggest areas where you're going to have rat poison. They dig these big trenches and they just put the rat poison in there, and then the rats come along and eat that, but then they don't die right away. And the hawks, which are literally right there, or owls or whatever, pick them up and die. So that's one of the things they're talking about is trying to get more hawk hides back out into the farmland because the hawks don't have a place to live if there's no, if there's no trees. So they just need to put in hawk hides so the birds have a place to live, and then they will love living on the farmland. I love driving through California, and here there's hawks all the time. I don't know if you guys have noticed, there's hawks all the time by the freeways and on farmland. So they're always out there working. I don't know how many rodents hawks eat, but owls eat 1,000 rodents a year. So that's way more than a rat box is going to kill. And you don't have to pay for it, right? So that'd be pretty cool. Also putting in snake habitat. Washington State is a great place to put in snake habitat because Western Washington is a great place to put in snake habitat because we don't have poisonous snakes over here. So, the gardener snakes and things like that, they're definitely going to die. That was one of the first animals I thought of. My Native American is the snake. So I love snakes. I've always loved snakes. They're one of my top favorite animals. So I was like, oh my God, you would have killed gardener snakes. Yeah, they would eat the rodents. Oh no. So making maybe snake habitat if you're into snakes. But just thinking about what predators you'd like to have in your yard and bringing those in, I think would be very helpful. Also remembering, we talked about that that poison stays in the ground and is, messing with all of the little creatures down there. When I got into this subject, I kind of also just took me down a big rabbit hole as far as what other poisons we were using. Someone I knew was having problems with ants. They just can't get rid of the ants. And we were, doing poison, but the poison isn't really working. And we looked it up, and though we haven't tried it yet, it says that cornmeal is what kills ants. So you put that around the edge of your house, and then the ants eat that. And if you have to put that in your house, it's not going to hurt any of your kids, it's not going to hurt your pets. Whereas with her, she has 2 cats. She had to block the rat poison. She was very worried. She had to block the rat poison off with these books so that her cat didn't play with it. And then her cat kept eating the ants, which is what made me think about it. I was like, oh, but what eats ants? Spiders, wasps, beetles. Oh, we're probably doing the same mini thing to the small environment if we're all doing those little rat poisons, right? Because most of the creatures are very sensitive to poisons. So I just instantly was like, oh no, we just took me down a big rabbit hole. And kind of got me thinking too about some of the other things. So I don't know if you guys have heard about the salmon, which was something they've been trying to figure out why the salmon are dying from this little tiny bits of poison, and the poison turns out to be our tires. There's some sort of coating we put on the tires that goes into the water and pretty much instantly kills the salmon. I thought oh, well, yeah, it's probably bad for the salmon, probably messes. No, I guess it is an instant kill. When this gets into the water, it kills the salmon. So they're trying to figure out a way to find a substitute, but that money is us part of the money on the chopping block of all the recent cuts. So maybe if that's something that really interests you, you really want to make sure the salmon are taken care of, then that is something you definitely want to let your legislator know. I am big on that, especially right now. Just to call, it takes 30 seconds to call someone and be like, hey, I don't like that. Don't do that. So I'm really big on that right now. So calling your senators or calling your mayors, things like that, just letting them know it is something that, that's what worked. That's how we are where we are because people kept calling and complaining. So I know we'll have to actually do that part too. So just keeping that thing in mind. Some of the other things that will help just with that is just with your yard in general is leaving the leaves. We talked about that when I did the meeting. As if you're having ant problems, you might have a problem with predators. You don't have enough predators in your yard, so making sure that you have a compost spot. My sister shows me this guy, and it's his pride and joy, and I want people to find their greatest joy, guys. But he likes to mow his lawn every day. He likes it perfect. Perfect. Whole front lawn, just golf, and he has a plug. If he divots the golf thing, he has a plug. It's super cool. But I was like, oh, but where are the creatures? But I don't know what his backyard looks like. And again, so what they're asking everybody to do, and what I would ask him to do is I'd be like, oh, well, do you have a spot, a spot for animals that you don't mow, they're asking scientists asking for a 3 by 3 square foot if you have a yard, or 1% of your property being given to animals, 1% of your time, 1% of your money. That was what Oregon's whole well, man, what word am I using? Oregon's whole thing with their wildlife was is they were asking everybody to give 1% when they were doing the voting. I mean, I cannot pull up that word. Anyway, and so that was something that was super important, is just for everybody to leave their leaves, to make sure that you're not composting your food. That's something that also helps with global warming, is that you put your food in your yard, and if you have a spot where the food, or you can have one of those compost bins if you don't want animals. If you're not as into nature as me, I actually love it when the possums come through and eat my garbage and the raccoons eat my garbage. I have a spot where I specifically leave my garbage for my creatures. So maybe you're not into that. You can get like a compost thing in your house, but they're talking about that is leading to a lot of global warming. So that would also help the animals in your yard, and it would also help the planet. So having a spot where all your compost, I know it's hard when like we have big storms and stuff like that, but they're specifically saying all of that stuff comes up out of your yard, right? It's all the all the nutrients and stuff. So it needs to, when the tree falls, it really needs to stay there and let its nutrients go back where it is. So that's really what they're trying to get people to realize, is that you really need to keep as much stuff as possible on your property, just so that you retain your nutrients and you're keeping all of your creatures and keeping your balance, because that's what happens is you just get out of balance. Your property just gets out of balance. So that was something that we talked about. That was really, really important and near and dear to my heart, was just all the different ways that we can take care of the earth, because that's what we're here for. This is, it's what main part of my show is. I've just been hearing so much spiritual bypass, where people are just not, they just think that this planet's already dead. And I'm like, oh no, see, I came from a cult where I was told that the planet was garbage. And I was like, but it looks really pretty. And then when I left I was like, wow, no, this literally is like a paradise. Like the earth is so beautiful. And us humans just have to give animals just a little bit more space. If you think about how many eggs most bugs have, if they're just left alone, we would have such a big recovery. We saw that during the pandemic, and here in Washington, we just saw it recently when they took out this whole dam. That as soon as they took out the dam, they thought it would be years of recovery. As soon as they took out that dam, 2 weeks, and salmon were in places they hadn't been in. I think that dam had been there for 100 years. So like the salmon were someplace they just hadn't been. So the nature is really just waiting for us to just give it a little bit of time, a little bit of space, and it will recover so quickly. So spiritual people, this is something that I really think that we need to get on board with, is just making sure that we're taking care of our nature and make sure that we're really taking care of the earth, because that's one of the reasons why we're here. If we weren't here in 3D, we would be here, we wouldn't be able to touch stuff. If you just wanted to send love and light, you could be a spirit, right? But if we want to actually move things around, pick up garbage, make food for us, take care of other humans, that's why you came here in the 3D. That's why you're here. With that, we're going to go ahead and take a little break. This is Nicole Pelham with Love and Lightning on Transformation Talk Radio, and we'll be right back. Thank you so much for staying with me for this almost an hour and this really important topic that I just really wanted to make my very first topic about predators over poison. As we go through the episodes, you'll hear me talk about mastering yourself and not being perfect, like things like that. The perfection, I actually personally love trying to be perfect. I think it's just fun. For me, failure and setbacks are more like realignments and readjustments, and I just, I do so many things that sometimes, it's just doesn't work out. So I'm just like, yep, I failed at that. Oh well. But that's just a mindset that I had going forward that I had to work on with getting rid of my fear. So that was something that you're gonna notice as you go through the episodes with me and you kind of listen. That's what I'm going to talk about a lot, is about moving forward in your mindset. And making sure that you are listening to who's giving you advice and making sure that it's what you want to, because we're in an age right now where everything is opening up. And so, you really want to find the thing that you love, and really just go with that. You don't want to get too caught up in what everybody's going to tell you. I can think of a couple things in my life, basketball being one that people were like, women's basketball, that's never going to be a thing. And then when it was a thing, that's so silly. Da, da, da. And I played 10 years of women's full tackle football and from 30 to 40 instead of playing my love basketball. I love football, but people talked me out of playing basketball, which I would have also loved. So just keep those things in mind. You don't want to be too worried about things that you missed out on or that you didn't have, because really you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And if it's something that you missed, you probably can do it. Like, I can go play old women's basketball and do tournaments. I really can. I looked it up. I was like, man, if you still want your basketball dream, we can still go do it. So just remember too that it's not too late for you to follow your dreams, for you to go ahead and go after what you want. Remember though that things do take a little bit of work. That's something that I do notice people get very frustrated as someone that's had a couple different businesses, especially my women's tackle football team, is the idea of mastery. People are, that is something that you have to understand, that it does take time to get better at things. Something I had to be reminded of just recently as I started painting. Again, my sister, I was like, wow, I'm getting better. My sister's like, yeah, consistent practice. Shocker, you actually get better at something. And I was like, oh yeah, that 10,000 hours that I always talked about with football is that you're trying to get to. So mastering of our mind, and using those efforts to move us forward. Like I said, I was raised in a cult, which we were constantly reminded. We had 3 meetings a week. We were constantly reminded about our duty and what we're supposed to do. And the reason why they did that was to keep you in the cult. So there's something too that you remember. I talk about this with my employees to say, hey, the reason why there's speed limits constantly is to remind us what speed to go. So that's something you have to do with our children, is you have to remind them constantly what the rules are. So, hey, remember, we're not doing that. Remember, we're having nice hands. Remember, we're not breaking things here. And that's just something you have to do because humans need those constant reminders, especially at young ages, but we need them at older ages. So to make sure that you're keeping yourself diligent in whatever thing that you want to do, that whether it's something that you're doing in the material world or something you're doing in the spiritual world, that you're doing that with diligence, that you're putting in the effort and the hours and working on yourself, and that will automatically create success. One of the other things I talked about was my magic manifestation method, which you guys can get if you sign up on our website, on my website at loveandlighten.com. You'll start getting those. It'll have a song and a manifestation method. I have ADHD, so I rotate through manifestation methods pretty quickly. So you'll also get that. But with that, you'll get, look, I wasn't doing so well. I was like, you haven't messed up yet. Anyway, but with that, you're going to get just a little bit more information about me, about, what I do, and just, what I'm trying to get across to the world, which is just that we're supposed to have fun here. And I'm just having so much fun after being raised in a cult where I was literally told that all of you deserve to die. And like I said, in the revelation way, in the worst way possible, coming out of it, I have just been so amazed, not just at the world, but at you humans too. I really, really love you. You humans are just so wonderful. And I think just applying some of the things, man, I hate some of the things that I learned as a young child will just help people to, just keep moving forward in their life. So one of the things I talked to my friends about was if a bird lands on your head, you don't allow it to make a nest, which is so funny because there's a whole man, I think he's in the 60s or 70s, that let a bird stay on his shoulder, and he's like, yeah, it wouldn't leave. And I just kept it there. And I was like, wow, he did let the bird stay there. But the whole thing was that if an idea gets in your head, you don't need to let it stay there. And that's here there with spiritualism. They say then watch your ideas and let them flow through you. Watch your ideas and let them flow through you, because not all those thoughts are yours. A lot of those thoughts are not yours. And that's one of the first steps in spiritualism, is going through all those and realizing which voices you want to keep and which voices you don't want to keep. Because some of those voices, you'll be like, yeah, no, you know what? That person always encouraged me. I love keeping hearing that voice. And that person, man, that voice always makes me like cringe, and I don't, I step back and I don't, become my fullest person. So those are what you're going through. But with that magical manifestation method, one of the things I talk to people about is to work on their first 3 chakras. So your fear, your lust, and your willpower. Those are like those first 3 things, to get those things in order. And people are like, I want the manifestation. I want the dream house. I want the dream job. I want all this money. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you can get all that stuff before you get there, but those things are usually kind of tainted. And they don't usually make you happy because you weren't happy before that. So making sure that you get up to your heart center chakra, working on what things scare you, working on your self-control is super important. Working on your habits is super important. And then when you start working on those things are going to manifest instantly. Like just working on those first three chakras are going to bring amazing things to you because you're going to get more control of your life. You're going to get more control over your thoughts, and you're going to get more control over just your entire being. So that's what I talk to people about first, but you can sign up for the manifestation methods. I probably will, the ones I'm going to give are usually pretty, open-ended. They usually aren't able to manifest in negativity because I'm not giving out those ones. But that is something that is super. It's just something I've thought about how much gatekeeping. People are like, oh, no gatekeepers, but like you have to have like some gatekeeping because some people are not. You can't. They're in the snake. They're in the lower chakras and they're manifesting, and the snake god's like, yeah, let's go. I love this idea. Let's go. Or up, and instead we need to get to this spot where we go, oh man, that person did a great job, but I'm going to go ahead and let it go. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys with the homework, but I do have a little bit of homework for you guys. Don't worry, my homework is usually movies, or at least you can do it as a movie. Hey, Nat, can you play that wonderful little clip for us?
I do believe we are destined to be soulmates.
Hit me one time. Hit me twice. Oh! Ah! Oh!
That's rather nice.
Oil and grime, poison sludge, diesel clouds and noxious muck. Slime beneath me, slime up above. Ooh, you love my toxic love.
I see the world and all the creatures in it. I suck 'em dry and spit 'em out like spinach. 'Cause greedy human beings will always lend a hand with the destruction of this worthless jungle land. And what a beautiful machine they have provided
To slice a pack of doom with my sweet breath to guide it. Filthy brown acid rain pouring down like egg chow mein. Slime beneath me, slime up above. Ooh, you love my toxic love.
That is your first homework assignment, is to watch Ferngully, and then if you can, take time out to really try to train your social media. Thank you so much for tuning into my first show, Love and Lightning. I had such a great time, guys. Literally, it was so fun. You can join me every second and fourth Tuesday at 4 p.m. here on Transformation Talk Radio or www.loveandlightning.com. Next time on Love and Lightning, we're going to be talking with Jacob Nelson about cults. He also has a book out about lucid dreaming. That is going to be on July 8th. You can also catch up with me at Bad Vegan Nikki, Love a Lightning, or what Nikki would do on most social media platforms. Remember to do your own research, humans. Literally, no matter who is telling you it, please take time out to do your own research, especially just some person on a podcast. Like, make sure you do that. And then again, I was raised in a cult, guys. I was told all of you were horrible. You deserve to die. And again, in that revelation fashion, which if you don't understand what I mean, you should read it. In the revelation fashion. So I just want to let you guys know that I love you. I really love humans as I've like gotten out to the world in these last 15 years. I have just been overjoyed as I've met all these different people. Doesn't mean I like everybody. That's like not possible. Some people really do get on my nerves, but I do love them. Like I just haven't met a human that I don't love, that I don't send love to, that I don't help is doing a great job and that has a wonderful time. In fact, I tell people that I hope they have such a great job that they forget I exist. If they don't like me, forget I exist. So with that, I love you and know I would love you more if I knew you. Love and Lightning, out. Thank you for listening to Love and Lightning with Nicole. Catch us every second and fourth Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. If today lit something inside you, subscribe, share, or like, and spread the spark. Ready to be inspired? Take next steps? Check us out at loveandlightning.com. Check out my books, music, upcoming events, and let's stay connected on my social media. You can find me at Bad Vegan Nikki or lovealightning.com. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.